Dubbed anime sucks. Okay, I know there's some of you typing in the comments already explaining how this is just not true, but let's relax for a second. This video is not what you think, I promise. The dub versus sub argument in anime has existed since the beginning of anime's popularity, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about why this argument exists in the first place. But also, people are unfairly comparing these two industries, and I want to shed light on why sub is better than dub, not from a lens of hating on dub, but explaining the industries and why the Japanese voice acting industry is so different from the dubs we get here for anime. Now, although I am a sub-elitist, I watch all my anime in sub pretty much no matter what, I do want to say the point of this video is not anywhere near disrespecting dub voice actors or trying to push them down in any way. I have serious respect for anyone working in the anime industry, especially voice actors. Dub voice actors give it their all at every chance they get. Seriously, this video is not a hit piece on any of those anime workers, I promise you. But we will be taking an objective look at the two industries, which does kind of paint dub in a bad light, so I just want to make that clear first. This is from an objective statistical lens, not hating on anything. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe. And also in the comments, let me know what your favorite dub anime is, because as someone who pretty much exclusively watches things in sub, I want to know what the good dubs are. Let me know. Before we start taking an in-depth look at the two different voice acting industries, both in America and in Japan, I think it's pretty important to go back and look at where dub versus sub started, and also what the main arguments for each side are, just to get the picture of what this debate has been like for the last 20 years. And I think the best way to do that is actually to frame this debate with My Hero Academia, which I think has the biggest polarized fan base on whether dub versus sub is the correct way to watch the show. I think part of the reason for this is that My Hero has a very large Western fandom, so it's natural that a lot of people watch the show in dub. But I also think the My Hero dub gets a lot of props because it does a little bit of a interpretational dub style instead of directly following the Japanese, if that makes any sense. Instead of trying to dub over the characters in exactly what they're saying in Japanese, My Hero tries to make the dialogue a little bit more connective to its audience by altering the words and the rhythm of the characters, which I think is a good thing, but this does create a large divide in the fan base on whether sub versus dub is the correct way to watch the show. I think it's totally valid for people to watch My Hero in dub, especially if that interpretative dub style connects with them better as it's their native language. But when you see people recommending the sub, their biggest criticism of the dub is that the quality is just bad. And I think that's where the majority of this debate comes from. People saying the dub is good because it caters to their native language and they connect with the characters more, versus the people who are saying the dub is really bad quality compared to the Japanese voice actors, and also the Japanese voice acting is just the original content, so it's better to watch that instead. And every time I see this argument, this always leads to a back and forth where the dub person says, no, it's not better quality, the dub is just as good as the Japanese, and then the people who watch the sub are saying, no, the quality in sub is just way better, it's the original language. It's this back and forth with no real substance, but I think there is a reason for this divide, and that's exactly what this video is about, the difference in the industries. Now, again, if the dub connects with you better in any show, I totally recommend you watching it. Watch it however you like, your enjoyment is the most important. However, I think it's time to start ignoring the giant gap in the industries between dub and sub. Or I guess instead of saying sub, it's more accurate to say the Japanese voice acting industry versus the English voice acting industry. So let's get into what the goal of this video actually is, why it's not wrong to say sub is so much higher quality than dub when it comes to the quality of the voice acting. This is the biggest thing that people do not talk about when it comes to dub versus sub. There is an undeniable gap in the quality due to the amount of resources the voice actors have when recording these lines for anime. And by resources, I sort of just mean the size of the industry in general. The best way to encapsulate this is looking at the popularity and the stats behind the Japanese voice actors versus the English voice actors. It is just incomparable. Yuichi Nakamura is one of the most popular Japanese voice actors, and Bryce Papenbrook is one of the most popular English voice actors. If you look at their followers on Twitter, Bryce is at just under 100,000. Nakamura is above 2 million. Very popular English voice actors sell out lines like this. Popular Japanese voice acting events in Japan sell out venues like this. Anime voice actors are limited in anime and some small indie games. But if you look at Japanese voice actors' roles, they are literally everywhere. Yuki Kaji voices Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan, and also Miles Morales in both the Spider-Man games and the movies. Maya Sakamoto as Shinobu in Monogatari, is Padme in Star Wars and Anna in Frozen. Junichi Suabe, who is Sukuna in Jujutsu Kaisen, is Victor in League of Legends. Tomokazu Sugita, who is Gintoki in Gintama, is in a ton of games like Overwatch and Genshin Impact, but is also in a ton of Japanese dubs of Hollywood movies. He's literally the voice of Shazam. The list just goes on, and I know it sounds like I'm just crapping on the dub industry, but I think it's important to realize the reason the quality of Japanese voice acting is so much higher than dub and people prefer to watch in sub is not this elitist, I want to watch in whatever the show was created in sort of mentality. It's just because these people are literally famous in their country. They have the resources of an industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars, compared to most dub voice actors who are scraping by with not very good pay, some who have less followers on Twitter than I have on YouTube. This is why I think dub versus sub gets so blown out of proportion when there's sort of an objective answer that not a lot of people talk about. Yes, it is totally okay to prefer dub or prefer sub. The argument is sort of pointless in that vein. However, it sort of gets me a little bit off my edge when I see people saying, oh, people are sub elitist when they only watch sub, when the reality is, it is just a more fleshed out and professional industry than dub, especially for anime. The Japanese voice actors for anime in Japan are literally celebrities. Whether that's because anime is so popular or whether that's because their roles stretch over so many different IPs, I could not tell you, but it is an undeniable fact that the industry is just way ahead of English voice acting. And that's why I think it's okay to prefer sub even if you're a native English speaker and don't understand Japanese, because the quality is just undeniably better. There's more money and resources in the industry, undeniably. But I don't want to make it seem like it's the end for dub and sub will always be superior. We have seen anime dubs that sort of match the quality and professionality of Japanese voice acting in movies. If you ask me, my favorite dubs are the Ghibli movies. Because they have such a high production value, you get American stars like Robert Pattinson in The Boy and the Heron. Stuff like this makes a good dub because people like Robert Pattinson, Hollywood stars, are the equivalent of what Japanese voice actors are in Japan. It's the same level of quality, same level of professionality, same level of industry and money and resources that they have access to recording. Obviously, the anime industry has a long way to go to get stars like him and other Hollywood actors voice acting in just normal anime, but I just think the existence of the Ghibli dubs goes to show that it is possible to have a really good dub that is as good as the sub. You just need an industry that has the same amount of resources and money, and that is only popular in English production for movie-like productions, where in Japan, anime has that for pretty much everything they're putting out from a big studio because of the popularity of the voice actors. Again, this video is not to push down any of the dub voice actors who somehow maybe are seeing this video, nor is it to say that sub is better in every circumstance. I just think it's very important to realize that people who prefer sub are not elitist or only favoring the language the content was created in. I think it's totally fair to think dub is lower quality than sub for anime specifically because of the size of the industries statistically. And that exactly is the reason why I only watch sub. It is just better, it is just more professional. The quality is higher because of the size of the industries. Thanks for watching. I know this is a little bit different than what I normally make for my videos, but I was sort of spectating a dub versus sub argument the other day and nobody was mentioning this, and I feel like not a lot of people do mention the difference between the industries. So I thought it'd be fun to make a video about, and maybe it'll shed some light on the argument or what you think about sub versus dub. Maybe it'll help you inform your friends. I don't know. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Leave a comment what you think about dub versus sub, and I'll see you next time.